Hello and welcome to my channel. This is the very first episode. We're going to be doing a Barcelona career mode. In this first episode, we're going to be going over the storyline and objectives, and if there's time, we'll do the initial setup. Our goal is to keep the game as authentic and as realistic as possible and implement things that happen in real life into this storyline. We're going to use the youngsters to build a new dynasty similar to Pep Guardiola and Luis Enrique era. We're going to try to bring Barca back to the glory days. We want this to be as challenging as possible, so we're going to set the game up as ultimate level. Also, the sliders, we're going to make it very competitive and realistic. And if at any point the game gets a little easy, we'll tighten up those sliders. So in order to try to reciprocate just how badly Barca sucked in the first half of the season, because Messi left, Koeman sucked, excessive injuries, etc., we're going to set the game up to extreme condition, especially for that first half of the season. So transfers in the first window will not be allowed, and for the second half of the season, only the players that were purchased in real life will be allowed to be. So our targets for the second half of the season is going to be Fabio Blanco, Emery Demir, Torres, Aubameyang, and Adama, just like in real life. I'll be making an exception for Dani Alves because if you set him up as a free agent and you try to purchase him when the career mode starts, almost every time you try to do so, he's retiring and you cannot purchase somebody who's retiring. There's also a player named Pablo Torre. This will also happen after the mid-season window, just like real life. So for Pedrola and Orellana, we're going to have those start at the very beginning on the default roster. This is because they were already part of the Barca B, and it's cool because they were enlisted for the EuroLeague, the current one. So the youngsters like Pedri, Xavi, Nico, Araujo, and Ansu Fati, these guys are going to play essential roles from Season 1 because those guys were going to develop as superstars. And I know there's a few others like Balde and Garcia. We're not going to develop those in the first scene. They're going to rotate, but not until Piqué and Jordi Alba are out of the first team. Then we'll give Garcia and Balde the opportunity. Okay, now for Season 2, those transfers, they're going to be based on whatever deal the Barca are currently closing. They have a couple players that they're closing a deal right now. We're going to be allowed to purchase those at the end of Season 1. And for players like Haaland that we're not really sure if he's going to join or not, we're going to wait till mid-Season 2 to see what's going on. Maybe in real life something develops. We'll see. Maybe you guys will vote on it. We'll see. But very important for any transaction that we want to do for Season 2, they have to be based on very strong rumors. They have to be ex-La Masia players or players that we develop from our own youth development team. And for the strong rumors, we're going to use reporter Fabrizio Romano as our main source because he's very thorough.
Hello guys, it's Fabrizio Romano. Here we go.
So we will be using his reporting and his tweets. Like whenever he makes Barcelona is negotiating with so-and-so, we'll be sharing that. We'll be embedding those tweets into our storyline. And then we'll move on to add those players to the transfer hub as potential candidates for a transfer. So at the beginning, I mentioned that we're going to have some extreme conditions. One of those is an injury handicap that we're going to implement. So to make it extra challenging and to mimic kind of the downfall of Barcelona in real life that happened, the worst moments were around October-ish to January 1st. We're going to have an injury handicap on Dembélé, Memphis Depay, Ansu Fati, Pedri, Araujo, Bertrand, Balde, Garcia, and Sergi Roberto. For those months, they're only going to be allowed to play 50% of the matches. And to put the cherry on top, for the Champions League, those players I just mentioned will only be allowed to play the first 3 games. We really want to feel like the heat, Hopefully we'll survive and not get fired in Season 1. Every season and preseason game, it's going to be played. There's going to be no simulating. If there's ever a time where games get tedious or boring, we'll just clip those into highlight reels. Gameplay will feature a special broadcast camera that I like to use for all matches. I really feel this gives it a realistic, more authentic look. It makes it look as if you're watching a TV broadcast. It was a little tricky at first getting the physics down, but with a little practice, it just made the whole experience a lot more fun. And the cool part is that all these games, they're actually recorded in 4K HDR. On a later episode, I'll be introducing a video where we get into the in-depth tactics that I'll be using. We're going to be using a 3-3-4 formation, and we will be playing a tiki-taka style. Okay, so for Season 1, our main objective is to qualify for the UEFA Champions. I know this is kind of a low bar, but trust me, the conditions we're setting up is going to be pretty extreme, and we will be developing our youth team and focusing on those mid-season transfers. For the second half of the season, anything that's still on the table, we're going to go for it. Like if by the second half of the season, we're still, we still have a chance of winning the Liga, we're going for that. If we have a chance for winning the Copa del Rey, we'll go for that. If we're in the Champions, we'll go for that. If we're in the Euro League, we're going to try to win that. All right? Okay, so I'm going to need you guys' help to get the ball rolling. So please like and subscribe. We got to build that community. Once we got that community built, we'll be able to hold press conferences. You guys leave me comments in the comment section. We'll talk about it. We'll be able to decide together what are we going to do with Haaland, what are we going to do with Dembele, and other fun stuff. So yes, we're going to stay consistent to the transactions that happen in real life. The only exception to this rule is if, for example, we're letting Dembele's contract to expire and somebody makes an offer and they kind of pin us against the wall to make a decision, we will be allowed to make a decision that determines his future. We will also be allowed to make transactions at the end of the season. What that means is after the mid-season window closes, it's open season on transfers. For these will be considered pre-contracts and the players won't join us until the beginning of Season 2. Okay, so to wrap up, our long-term goals, I would say after Season 3 or during Season 3 would be number 1, to win the UEFA Champions League, win the treble, win the famous sextete. That means to win 6 titles in 1 year. We're also gonna try and win 3 UEFA Champions in a row, just like Real Madrid did. And if we have a chance, and if it takes more than if we're close, and we're around Season 10 and we're close, we'll keep going. And we're going to try to beat the all-time record of UEFA Champions wins. That's 13 held by Real Madrid. So 8 to tie, 9 to break the record. Okay, so I think that's pretty decent to start. Further down the road, when we have a community, we'll start taking press conferences and we'll see what else we can add to the gameplay to make it more fun. So before we start the actual game setup, let's go over the created players that have been embedded into the storyline. So first we have Stanis Pedrola. He is a Barca B player. He's going to be in the starting default team. He played a game. I don't know if it was 2 games. I definitely saw him play at least 1 game during the season, so we're going to have him on the roster. Orellana. He has been registered for the Euro League, so we have registered him for our first team. Paulo Torre. If you haven't seen a highlight reel of this player, you gotta go and watch it. It looks like he's following in the footsteps of Pedri, so we're definitely gonna include him in the game. And also Fabio Blanco. He actually was in the game. As you can see there, I put him already in Frankfurt where he was originally on. So Fabio Blanco was originally in the game, but once you apply the updated rosters, he's no longer in the game because real-time Barcelona have already purchased him and he's on Barca B, so the FIFA game just took him out of the game. I did make Pedrola and Orellana, so if you like these 2 players and you would like for me to make a video how to make them, please let me know in the comment section. For Paulo Torre and for Blanco, both of these players, I used the Blanco stats based on the default FIFA roster, and somebody created a really nice creative player face, and so I'll try to provide the link for that. Torre was also created by somebody online, so I'll provide the link for that. The stats for Torre, I did do some investigating. I saw some a base copy online, so I looked at that, and then I started looking at videos at him and adjusted accordingly, so I think it came out pretty cool. Okay, let's begin with the game setup. We're going to be using Xavi Hernandez as our coach. I did not make him. I did select his attire, but I'll provide a link to the YouTuber who made this. So here's the board expectations. We'll be taking a look at what are those objectives once we're in the game. Let's make the new camp, the Camp Nou. Set up the name. El Libertador gets changed to Camp Nou. The stands, we're gonna need a dual color, red and blue. The seat color, there we go. That one right there, garnet. The pitch, large horizontal. The color, olive green. There we go. Meshing, I keep it to default. So the career settings, match difficulty, we're gonna set to legendary. Half length would be 8 minutes. Currency euros. Enable that. Transfer window closed as we stipulated. For international job offers, we're not gonna accept anything for the first season. Around season 4 or 5, whenever the World Cup is again, I will be willing to accept an offer by Spain and use all our developed youngsters.
Demos una cálida bienvenida al nuevo manager.
So we're going to focus on training and rotating the squads. So we're not going to pick the most difficult. Definitely not this one. This one's okay, but let's just go with the easiest one. Money right now, I know it's tight, but what we really want to do is rotate our players and, you know, try to do okay. All right. Youth Academy, let's set this up. Like what I like to do is always keep anyone who has a potential above 85 and just eliminate anybody who's under 85 potential. Be all for the youth. Expectations, take a quick look here. So they have nothing for the youth development, ban exposure, 5 away game matches. Okay, let's see if we can do that. Continental, the Champions League final, probably that's gonna be a little difficult. Financial 20, but not so bad. So let's set up 3 scouts. We're gonna mainly focus on defense, because we're pretty set on the attacking. The midfield's looking good. We're also going to buy a couple of youngsters that are good in the midfield. So where I really see us lacking is our defense. So let's hire 3 scouts, 1 in Spain, one for the Netherlands, and 1 for Argentina, rotating to Brazil. Okay, so set this up for Spain, and defensive-minded, 3 months. We might as well set up the Dutch scout for Netherlands. We'll do the same. We'll set this up for defensive-minded, 3 months. Okay, set up the final one. Let's start with Argentina. Also defensive-minded. Once the 3 months are up, we'll rotate to Brazil. There we go. Next, we're going to set up our targets for the mid-season transfers. Ferran Torres, we're going to scout him. Adama, we're also going to scout him. I think he's up around a 79 or 80, but don't get it twisted. He's fast. Like, he really breaks down the defense. Aubameyang. Okay, so he's an 83. Also, very good player for an 83. Is the youngster Paulo Torres, who we're looking for. There he is. So his default team was not in the game because it's a 3rd division Spanish team. So I just put him on any random 2nd division team. Demir Emery, not to be confused with the other Demir that was sent back to his team. It's another one. and Fabio Blanco. Add him to the short list. So there you go. That's pretty much probably going to be the order in which we're going to try to purchase them. These guys are really going to help us in the second half of the season. I cannot wait to get Torres, Adama, Aubameyang. We'll get Paulo Torre after the mid-season window closes, so we're not going to know what he can do until the beginning of Season 2. So this is what the lineup I usually have. So I set up a 3 rosters rotation system. I do that so when we're training, you know, one training session I do with Barca A, one training session I use Barca B, and then one training session I use Barca C. So I just keep rotating those. So pretty much the default Barca A are the starters. So if we have a training after a game, I usually rotate then Barca B for the following training, and so on and so on. So our system, we do use left wing backs and right wing backs. So we're gonna go ahead and change any player that needs to learn that position. That back to left wing back. Balde, same thing, left wing back. Garcia, since he's kind of slow, we're gonna set him up to train as a right wing back. But he has played that position in real life. Also, Mingueza, he plays more of a right wing back than a center back, so we're gonna train him for a right wing back. Des, we're gonna switch to a left wing back, and then we're gonna train him back to a right wing back because he does play both positions. Sergio Roberto, let's switch him to the midfield. He's just too slow for a right wing back. Dani Alves to right wing back. Okay. Orellana, we'll also switch him to a center midfielder, and then we're going to change him back to a defensive midfielder. We got to take advantage that we're in the preseason, so by the time this season starts, these players should be back to their normal positions. Gabi, we're going to train him as an attacking midfielder, and then we're going to set him back to a center midfielder. Same thing for Pedri. We're going to take advantage of the preseason. We're going to train him as an attacking midfielder, and before the season start, we'll train him back to a center midfielder. De Jong's already knowing. He's already good. Ansu Fati, we're going to train as a center forward, and we can play him like as a false 9. And then we're going to train him as a striker, just in case in the future we want to play like Ansu Fati in the middle, Torres, Dembele on the wings, and Adama. Let's see. Pedrola, I know he plays a striker, so we'll change him to a striker and then back to a right wing. Dembele also plays the left wing, so we're going to train him as left wing, and then we'll set him back to a right wing. So next we're going to just block any players that are considered untouchable. So that would start with Jordi Alba, Ter Stegen's also untouchable, Balde. We're probably going to sell up Titi, we're going to sell Lenglet. Araujo is part of our future, so we're going to block any future transactions. Okay, so I forgot to switch him to a right wing back. So he has played that position a couple times in real life. He's actually pretty good. I know it says it's going to take forever, but this will help develop his speed. So yeah, Garcia's untouchable, but let's set up Araujo first, and then Garcia, also untouchable, as part of our future. Mingueza, not sure. I'm not sure about Des. I'm not sure about Sergio Roberto. Orellana, we're going to keep for the future. Sanz, some of these players we're going to loan out, especially the youngsters that we're not going to need for the beginning of Season 2. Pedri's untouchable. I'm not sure about Ricky Puig. Obviously, De Jong's untouchable. Ansu Fati, untouchable. Abde, Pedrola. Players are most likely be loaned. We're going to just leave Dembele as is. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Elias, we might set him up as a loan for around the mid-season. we're going to need these players at first, so we're not going to loan anybody out until the mid-season window opens. The buy for now is untouchable. We got to see how we're doing money-wise. We might have to sell them. We'll see. All right, we did it. That would conclude episode 1. Thanks a lot, guys, for sticking around. Make sure you like and subscribe because I'll be uploading episode 2. I don't know if it's going to take a day or two. I'm kind of new at this, and it does take a little while to render 4K UHD, but it's going to be an episode dedicated to the preseason, so we're going to be able to see some gameplay depending how it goes. Maybe I'll narrate it. Maybe we'll just make a highlight reel of it. We'll see, and I'll see all of you on the next one. Thanks a lot, guys.